Has it ever happened to you, seeing an aircraft passing by, or a boat, or a train, and not wanting to go, not wanting to ride on it, just wanting to stay, because you feel fine where you are? Imagine being at a sort of an airport or harbor, where you could actually live, where you could learn, share, meet the most amazing people, and do the most amazing things right there, on the spot. Well, such a place does exist. It has a name. We all call it Berlin. What is an ideal city?
Oh, my dear, that's a question. It's a difficult question. My father was an urbanist. I will quote him. He said, "A city is full of contrasts, and that's the basic thing. Contrasts. A city which has no contrasts between poor and rich, ugly and beautiful, and so on, is a dead city."
I would like to live in a place where I can feel like at home, which means for me that I have a little bit of privacy, but at the same time I have a community of people that I live with, and at the same time I can keep myself, and I have a room where I can live quietly, or space for myself, where I can go when the day is over and to rest, but also to have a few people around that I like and that like me, and that we can share certain things.
A general idea could be that people has to feel free and to feel happy in the city, in the place they live.
I live in a big flat with 6 people, and we have big shared space. But what I miss actually is I see that I need more space for myself. What is enough space for, because when I move out in the next years, of course also it will get more and more difficult to find a space that you can afford and so on, and I'm not in the mood anymore to move several times over the next years, I'm getting into that kind of stage, not forever maybe, but to stay there for a while. And so what is the right size? This is a difficult question. It's kind of to find the right middle way, I think.
In an ideal city, I would like to visit places on my own, without asking for help, without asking for a ramp, without asking for the special entrance for people with wheelchairs, and where I feel welcome.
People are the most important factor of the city. Nice spaces, indoors and outdoors.
For me, it's Berlin, and my ideal place in Berlin will be Tempelhof.
What is it that makes Berlin so special?
Because the capacity of Berlin is 12 million, but there's only 4 million people, so there's a lot of free space. And this for me is like one of the most important, because I've lived before in New York and London, and these are 2 congested cities and feel stuffed. So Berlin for me.
In Berlin, what happened, there is a city with a lot of immigrants that they bring their own culture.
A lot of things are not perfect, a lot of things are not done yet, but that's also what keeps this place alive, which is the difference to a design space, which is, a planner has...
I like it because it's green and colorful. And I mean that on one hand you have a lot of green areas, like you have green streets, you have open spaces in the city, gardens and things like that. And with colorful I mean that you meet people from around the world, and you get a lot of influences, and I like that really much in my environment.
And also I think in Berlin this is also an effect of the wall coming down, and it's in depression, but still the prices here are regulated. It's not out of control. People can afford eat relatively cheap and live relatively cheap. It's not like a total, system of...
The city changes every year because people move and people leaving, and
so when you want to change something, you can do it, and you will always find people for whatever, where you find people who are interested in the same, and where you can switch from one interest to one interest and maybe find the links, but there's almost nothing that does not exist. And for me, this gives a lot of freedom, where you don't feel like having so many borders.
Now I am very happy to be in Berlin, because we lived before in Paris, in Marseille, in Istanbul, in Mumbai. And finally in Berlin. I like the style life, I like to take my bike every day, and I like also to see people very happy to living here.
You can find something in this city that in other city you can't actually, and there are many projects and many space that are for everybody, and the creativity.
I think Berlin attracts a lot of people that do not accept systems, or the creatives, or people that are not afraid to step out of their comfort zone. They find the oasis, like artists or people that have nothing to lose.
Well, right now I'm living in an old Berlin apartment, and I think it's a beautiful place to live. You know, if you have this beautiful spaces outside in the city space, I mean, life is outside, it's not just in the apartments, so that's why I think it's a good combination in Berlin.
Possibilities in Berlin are unique.
Berlin is in a certain way unfinished, and I don't like cities which are complete or which have their best, and in Berlin there's always something to do and something to change or something to move around, or there's something open up in every corner, and that's the reason why I like Berlin so much.
Berlin, because it's such a broken, open space, and so much influx of people with little money but lots of ideas to try out yourself without too many restrictions, and that's great.
It is full of contradictions. Okay, you have rich people, poor people, and they coexist, and it doesn't break down every day.
When people decided, like more than 100 years ago, which trees to be used in the streets, they explicitly took trees which the bees can use for the nectar. We have a lot of, I don't know the English words, castanien, linden, and so on. They are kind of co-inhabitants of the city, and they use the rich biological diversity the city has, and you suddenly change your whole picture of what a city is. And they have a radius of 3 kilometers, and they know everything what's going on here.
What do you think about gentrification?
I think we sometimes have a quite falsified discussion about gentrification, because gentrification is also a historical thing which always happened to push forward urban changes which are maybe not that natural. And I think that there really is a problem, and that it's pretty much a political thing actually, and a political decision whether you want to do something about it or not. If you ask me as an architect, for me one of the main responsibilities for that is linked to politics.
Well, first of all, it's something that changes Berlin, affects Berlin very much. I find it really terrible that some people have to leave the places that they live for generations already in. On the other hand, it also brings certain qualities to a quarter of a city. For example, a nice cafe like this one.
The pity is that it all goes so quick, so there's no real time to integrate, so no time to develop slowly. And on the other side, I find it quite interesting when you think, for example, about the history also of this district. What is a normal change and what not, and what can be done and what not.
We cannot change things and pretend to be all in the same color, all in the same.
I feel that's it's a pity that people have to leave and can't afford anymore their rent. Yeah.
And here in Berlin, there are many of these open spaces still there, and there's a certain awareness, and I can even say an instinct that one should not allow that these spaces will be closed down over the years by the so-called development. This can never be the future. Impossible. Most sustainable way to effect changes in the world is that you are living what you are preaching. If you preach, yeah? Or in other words, even better, you don't preach at all. You do what you really believe is true, and you check yourself very carefully whether it's really true or you are just the thing. And at the end, to understand, occupy outside will only work when you have done it or you do it at the same time inside. To occupy yourself.
Sustainability is pretty abstract for a lot of people and pretty dry, technical, academic, not sexy. ID22, the Institute for Creative Sustainability, we started with the Experiment Days. We were looking for the focus and also for the right language and the right kind of a format. So instead of just talking about sustainability in general, we talked about the experimental city or experiment city, and we focused on Berlin topics or Berlin questions like the reuse of vacant land and buildings, and possibilities for participation or self-organization. So community gardens, cultural projects, community housing, things that Berlin is quite strong with. So we think it's important to begin with the local cultures and the local interests, the local possibilities. There's quite a strong history of self-organization. Yeah, definitely we see that the Experiment Days make a contribution to Berlin. Because we've been doing this for more than 10 years now, we can see that this idea or this structure, this concept, this approach is of interest to a lot of other cities, especially other larger European cities like Basel with kind of online, Vienna with the Experiment Days, Milan is looking to do a new Experiment Days. So we see other cities, people in other European cities looking to Berlin for innovation, and they find, among other things, Experiment Days and the kinds of projects that we do. Berlin is definitely a laboratory. It's many laboratories. It's thousands of them every day. So we see the Experiment Days as contributing to these learning processes, and to again making it easier for people to become engaged and to really do something that can have significance. I think social innovation has a lot to do with creative sustainability. This right, this human right or human need to, when people have time and are interested, the right to be able to help shape and design the local environment and manage it. Focus on architecture has moved from the facades and from the urban design toward the social architecture, meaning looking for connections between the hardware of the buildings and the software of the organizations of the people. We're on our way out of a corner of idealistic nonprofits, volunteer, self-exploitation, and on a path towards professionalization and towards what we can also call scaling up. One of really the main challenges is the networking, and that's a lot of what we're doing is networking online, networking through events, networking through publications. It sounds funny, but it's a bit like going mainstream or influencing more of the architecture and the planning and development in the city. If we were somewhere in an airport, spontaneously, I would say we would be in the lounge, organizing exhibitions and events, and talking with people and getting people to talk with each other, presenting information, entertaining a bit, and motivating and inspiring the city of Berlin to take a look at certain things, or to look at them in a different way, or when they go to another city in the world to look for certain things and to use their eyes in new ways.
So it would be the lounge.
I would say the lounge.
But no VIP lounge, like a democratic lounge.
No VIP lounge. No, an open lounge.
Great, thanks, yeah.
Ich bin Claudia, ich bin Berlinerin.
No, I'm from Berlin. I grew up here in Berlin.
I love Berlin. It's my hometown.
I'm very happy to be in Berlin.
It brings to the people the experience that you can reclaim your space and that you will not get in trouble immediately. And that was our aim. The experiment has worked. It's the experience of the commons. The media feel that it's not just something pretty and showy, that there is something else, and they want to find out what it is. Our language already has been colonized by power structures, and people have to rediscover the language which they speak actually, and not the language which they think they should speak. And in the city it's the same thing.